Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. I have a new project. You may or may not know I live pretty close to a lake. Not on the lake, but about probably 100 yards from the lake. And in the winter, they ride snowmobiles and ATVs at night on the lake. And there's a couple things. I think you need lights on your device and the normal safety things, and there's no such thing as safe ice and all that kind of stuff. But at one point I had hoped to get the dingo ready, and if you don't remember the dingo, I'll put the tag for the video somewhere up above here. But honestly, that thing is in such rough shape. That's more of a long-term project. I had no idea there was so much metal missing, and there's parts missing. Obviously, from the pictures, you can see that it's not a worth throwing away, but I could probably have $400 in parts in it by the time I get it running again. So anyway, on to my next project. I came across another one that really just cost $50 more than what I paid for that frame, and this thing's complete. Now supposedly, oh, it's frozen, it's cold today. Now supposedly this engine has low compression is what I was told. But here, let's take a look at it real quick, because I came out and I want to do something to it today while I can. But here's the go-kart that I got. And it's a 5-horse, and honestly, it's in pretty good shape. I've got it apart to get it inside the Tahoe, and the front tires are worn out. But if these are the original tires on the back, they're in really good shape. And the front tires could be wore out because I didn't realize how heavy this thing was. And it's got seat belts too, kind of nice. The dingo, I pulled out of here by myself very easily, loaded it by myself. This thing, it took 2 people to get this thing up here. It is heavy, and that's probably why the front tires are wore out from pushing when that thing, especially with a solid rear axle, it's probably pushing in corners all the time. That's probably why the front tires are wore out. But I came out here because I want to get this tire off because it's flat and it's off the bead. So I just thought this would be a great time to introduce my next project. Like I said, it's complete. It's got the cable for the throttle here. It's got the clutch. Look at this belt. I think it's half as thin as it should be. It's intact. Where's the brake at? I know I saw. There's the brake right there. I don't know if you can see it. The disc brake. And it's got all the pieces that the dingo didn't have. And like I said, it's in great shape. So I'm going to take this wheel off, and I'm not going to bore you with that. It's just a bolt, and then you slide it off. But it is heavy, and I'm not taking it out of the truck without some help. So I'll keep you posted. It's going to be in the teens for the next couple days and through the weekend, which would be really great for taking it out on the lake. But next weekend it's supposed to be in the 40s, which wouldn't be so great. So I'm going to get busy. And okay, I got a funny story for you, and this is true. So I'm picking this thing up. I had to take the cage off. I had to take that piece off so I could fit it in the Tahoe. And when I was ready to lift it up into the truck, clearly I couldn't lift it myself. So the lady said she'd help me if I needed any help. So I went and knocked on the door, and she had a speech therapist there for one of her kids. And the speech therapist answered the door. And so I said, hey, if I can just get, somebody to help me lift this thing into the truck, I'll be ready to go. And she goes, and the speech therapist goes, well, I'll help you. I says, fine. And she had to move her car anyway so I could get out. So she's coming out, and I've got gloves on. And I had an extra pair of gloves just in case. And so I says, here, I got another pair of gloves for you. And she goes, well, is it dirty? And I go, no, but it's cold. And she goes, well, I'm not some sissy girl that needs gloves to lift something. Now, mind you, I had gloves on. Enough said. My son-in-law came over and helped me get this out of the truck because it's heavy, very heavy. And I sprayed some starter fluid in the carburetor area here, and there was no air filter. It started on the second pull. So I put some gas in the gas tank, and it started leaking out all over the place over the bowl. So what do you think about that? It fires right up. There isn't, I got something else to show you too. So this is the CVT clutch here, and look at that belt. And this is the same belt, just newer. And I don't know if you can see just how much that the new belts wore out. I don't even know how this thing moved. So anyway, at this point, I'm going to take the carb off, clean it out, because see, it's still dripping from the gas I poured in it earlier. So float's stuck. I'm sure it's probably, without the air filter on it, it's probably full of junk. We'll get that cleaned up. And I think, you know, the guy said it had low compression. I checked the oil. It has oil. It's dirty, but it has oil. So I think maybe he didn't know. And I guess unless you've seen that belt before, you wouldn't know that that was half the size it should have been anyway. So it was probably burning rubber and all that kind of stuff. But once I get this thing back together, which couldn't be too long from now, put some air in the tires and go out on the lake. I got the carb out, and we'll give this a thorough cleaning so we know it runs. The only problem I was having is the fuel was just spilling out all over the place. So we'll take it apart. I wonder if it's coming from in the side of there. It looks like there's a shut off there that the things broke off. And we'll take a look. I bet that's what the problem where it was leaking from. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. I saw these carbs are pretty cheap on Amazon, and maybe we'll go that route, but yeah, we'll figure something out. I took the bottom of the carb bowl off. Let's get that in here. And can you see how dirty that is in there? So we'll get that cleaned up. We'll get the carb cleaned up. And once we get that float working the way it should, we'll put this back together. Should be able to drive it. I'll put the new belt on the clutch. Take her for a little rip. This is the shut off for the carburetor that stops the gas from going in. To shut it off at the tank. That goes into this bowl right here. That's not rust, that's corrosion. Well, so I've got my Mikuni carburetor all put back together. I cut a gasket. If you haven't seen my video on the Chinese pop off of this carburetor, you get some gaskets, but they're all for the intake side. Nothing for the carburetor to the engine side. So I'll put a link up here. I cut a gasket because the carb to the engine side is damn near impossible to find. And it turned out okay. So we got that on there, and you can get a whole roll of this gasket material at AutoZone for $8. And I mean, it's like 3 feet long. But they didn't have anything little, so there we go. We got that. I did find a Mikuni, this is called a strainer. These are still available as a kit. And interestingly enough, I bought this go-kart dirt cheap because the guy thought the engine had low compression. And this is from the old carburetor. or actually it was from the old strainer. And this was, the fuel shut off was actually shut off, but this thing was so corroded, it was allowing enough gas through the carb that it would run, but it just wouldn't run very fast, if you can believe that. And that might be all that's wrong with this thing. So got the new strainer on here. I used a couple parts from that Chinese pop-off. I used the bowl because the other one's just all rusted out inside. And I'm going to put it back on the motor and we'll see what happens. I know it'll run because it ran when I took it off. It just, the fuel was leaking everywhere between the, it was coming out of here because obviously between this corrosion and that gasket is shot, if you see the little rubber gasket around there. So anyway, let's put this back on the go-kart and see what happens. If you watch Cars and Cameras, they tell you to jack up the back of your go-kart or put your mini bike against the wall before you start it the first time. And there's a good reason for that. And I wasn't in the go-kart. But it definitely rearranged my wall. Hey, that's what happens. Don't take good advice. So I'm not gonna lie, this is the second time. I got it running with the carb on, but clearly I didn't get it clean enough because it would run for a second or two and then shut off again. And that was only on starter fluid. So the jet was a little bit dirtier and clogged than I thought it was. So I took it apart, cleaned it all up again, a little more thoroughly this time, and let's see what happens. I jacked it up this time. Okay, I finally got it running. Well, actually, it's ran since I got it. It would run on starting fluid. I got some parts for the carburetor. You've probably seen in the other videos. I'll put it up here. I finally got it. The linkage is kind of messed up. I don't know if there's a spring missing. One is definitely stretched. And the carburetor's still kind of, even after cleaning it, it's still kind of not right. But it's a lot better, and there's definitely plenty of compression. So I've got the linkage jerry-rigged a little bit, so it works. And here's the problem I'm having at the moment. The idle is up and down, up and down. If I get it low enough that the torque quits, or the belt quits spinning, it almost stalls. But yeah, I'm going to drop it, climb in that thing, and take it for a little spin, see how we do. Finally getting some fresh gas through it too, which could be a problem because the gas in this tank is pretty old. But I put some fresh in, I think it's starting to work itself through. Alright, let's see what happens. That is every bit as much fun as I thought it might be. brake doesn't work very well, or it's so rusty, it might take a little bit, but I think I saw a rope tied to it, the caliper, holding it in place. But I think I'll take it for another rip. There's definitely no brake, which makes it a little interesting. So I just got to give myself enough room to slow down before I hit something. No brakes. No brakes. It runs great. Fresh gas. Well, the total carb rebuild. And a couple parts from that 1PZ carburetor that I bought for 20 bucks. You can see the new bowl on there right there. And I had to get a new fuel strainer and a shut off because the other one was all corroded. But now the issue is the brake caliper, and you can see there's a little string tied here, and I need to figure what if it even has any brake pads left. In fact, I'm going to say maybe. I don't know. So I'll have to get that out of there, check it out. But yeah, she's running good. What a blast. And I got to put the cage back on. I had to take the bolts out to get it in my truck, my Tahoe, but put the air cleaner back on. And new belt. Not bad for $200. Alright, so that's it for now. If you enjoy these videos, click below. Click on subscribe. Leave a comment. Hey, do me a favor. If you've got this EX13, this is an EX13 Robin, send me a picture of how all this linkage is set up. There's definitely either a spring missing or something else, and this isn't anywhere near what it's supposed to be. I did this to make it work, but I'm gonna have to stop at Lowe's and get a spring for this here. But like I said, I just wanted to take a drive in it, and hopefully I'll see you again. All right, have a great afternoon.